The installation of Professor Dennis Lo Yuk-ming as the 9th Vice-Chancellor and President of the Chinese University of Hong Kong now commences. 香港中文大學第9任校長盧煜明教授就職典禮現在開始。香港中文大學第9任校長盧煜明教授就職典禮現在開始。Please rise， 請起立，請起立。Please remain standing and take off your caps for playing and singing of the national anthem. 奏唱國歌，請保持肅立並將帽子脫下。奏唱國歌，請保持肅立並把帽子脫下。
I declare the installation ceremony open.
Please be seated. 请就座，请就座。
We are assembled here today for the installation of Professor Dennis Lo Yuk-ming as the 9th Vice-Chancellor and President of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. In accordance with the Chinese University of Hong Kong Ordinance, and after receiving the advice of a committee established under Statute 6 of the University Ordinance, the University Council has appointed Professor Dennis Lo Yuk-ming as the 9th Vice-Chancellor and President of the Chinese University of Hong Kong with effect from the 8th of January 2025. I co-appoint the Provost, Pro-Vice-Chancellors, Vice President Administration, and Secretary of the University to accompany Professor Dennis Lo Yuk-ming to the stage.
Would the audience please rise? 請嘉賓起立，請嘉賓起立。Would the audience please be seated? 請就座，請就座。
Universities are large, complex, and increasingly scrutinized institutions, despite having aims that are at heart rather straightforward. We might agree that we seek to generate, promulgate, and conserve knowledge and understanding, but we won't so readily agree on exactly how to do it. Those who take on the onerous task of leading a university face many difficult choices in which competing interests, constraints, and opportunities must all be borne in mind, and yet, from these separate components, overall policies must nonetheless be formulated and agreed and enacted. How does one take all those fragments of information, duly respect their individual contents, and then assemble them into a coherent whole? The problem can be even more complex in a university like the Chinese University of Hong Kong, CUHK, with its individual colleges adding further dimensions to the mix. The challenges are more obvious than the guaranteed solutions. Yet today, we're in the fortunate position of celebrating the installation of a Vice-Chancellor who has famously identified, analyzed, and solved exactly this kind of problem. Here is part of his story. Professor Dennis Lo Yuk-ming was born in 1963 in Hong Kong, and perhaps like many here today, went to St. Joseph's College, a place notable not only for the quality of its education, but also for the academic freedom that flourished there. The resulting breadth put the young Master Lo into the enviable position of choosing between electrical engineering at Stanford or medicine, with offers from the University of Hong Kong and from Cambridge. Cambridge won. Crick and Watson had famously determined the structure of DNA there, and Dennis Lo was inspired by a photograph of the pair of them standing in front of King's College Chapel, perhaps the most iconic building from English Gothic architecture's hallmark perpendicular period. Two extraordinary achievements represented in one memorable picture. That made preclinical medicine at Emmanuel College utterly enticing, but what came next? Both of England's ancient universities had taught medicine since medieval times, yet despite offering excellent preclinical training, both were slow to establish their clinical medical schools. When Dennis Lo completed his first degree in 1986, the Cambridge Clinical School had only been established for 7 years, whereas Oxford had almost 40 years more experience. This was part of the reason why he moved to Oxford for the next stage of his training. His Oxford College, Christ Church, might have had an even grander chapel than King's College, Cambridge, if Henry VIII hadn't lost patience with Cardinal Wolsey in 1529, leaving Wolsey's vision incomplete. But that itself left an opportunity for Sir Christopher Wren, who redesigned the college's frontage in a form that added aesthetic appeal there, too. That move to Oxford ultimately proved life-changing, both for Dennis Lo, who met his wife there and whose research originated there, but also for many tens of millions of anxious parents and their children. The discoveries that underpin this striking sentence arose from the medical lecture course early in his time in Oxford, in which he encountered both a new technique and a question that it might resolve. The technique was PCR, the polymerase chain reaction, which is a method for generating potentially unlimited amounts of DNA, faithfully copied even from minuscule initial samples. This means that an initially undetectable signal can be rendered detectable. The question concerned an unusual set of patients whose livers had been damaged by exposure to a widely used and generally trouble-free anesthetic called halothane. Had the anesthetic directly damaged the livers of people unlucky enough to be hypersensitive in some way? Or could it instead have reactivated a latent virus in the liver, which is what had actually caused the damage? Despite investigations, no one had found a virus, but perhaps that could be because there was so little to be found. And if so, might PCR help by amplifying virus DNA, which could offer an alternative way to infer the presence of the virus from which it must come? My friend, Dr. Kenneth Fleming from the University of Oxford, who's here today, and had raised the question, describes this lecture of his as very boring and dull. And yet, at the end of the lecture, 2 students, one of whom was Dennis, came down to ask about all of this. He said if they were interested, he'd like to try it out, and they could help. So they came to his lab in the evenings and on weekends. No wonder students from Hong Kong are so welcome in the UK. And astonishingly, the first 5 or 6 cases of liver disease, while negative for hepatitis virus itself, were positive for liver virus DNA. But was that too good to be true? The most direct way to discover whether experimental gold is in truth lead is to run a negative control. Do the PCR without having included any actual liver tissue. Then you know there was no virus to start with. Yet, the negative control also yielded a positive result. It had been fool's gold, after all. The laboratory itself was a source of hepatitis virus DNA. Another Fleming, Alexander, famously failed to grow bacteria in a petri dish. That led to the discovery of penicillin. What must initially have felt like failure here led to a 1988 Lancet letter identifying and offering a solution for The Problem of Contamination in PCR. Its 3 authors are all here today. Dennis Lo was first author because he was absolutely crucial to all this, not just in doing the experiments, but thinking through the issues and solving them. We then developed lots of applications of the PCR in clinical material, including the detection of fetal DNA in maternal blood, first published in 1989. All this as a medical student. Dennis Lo stayed in Oxford until his return to Hong Kong in 1997. During this period, he was supported by a doctoral studentship, followed by a junior research fellowship at Hertford College, and then a faculty position with a fellowship at Green Templeton College, his 4th Oxbridge College experience. Just under 10 years later, in another Lancet publication, Dennis Lo and his co-workers reported that they could reliably detect fetal DNA in maternal blood plasma and serum. This game-changing discovery showed in principle that there could be a non-invasive method to probe the genetic makeup of a baby, something that hitherto had typically required the withdrawal of fluid from the amniotic sac that surrounds the fetus. That testing procedure conferred a risk of causing a miscarriage or early delivery. Development, validation, and clinical deployment of the non-invasive alternative took many more years of painstaking experiments, whose course was sometimes changed by moments of insight and inspiration that came not only from science, but from imagery in art and film. But those tests have now been deployed over 100 million times, averting perhaps 500,000 miscarriages or early births. That makes 200 million plus parents who decided that they should take a test, but didn't need to be scared of what the test procedure itself might do. Parents who didn't have to watch and wait in case their need to know triggered the end of a pregnancy, preempting consideration of what the test result might have meant. But Dennis Lo didn't stop there. From circulating fetal DNA, he'd moved on to discover the presence of circulating DNA released by a transplanted organ into the bloodstream of a transplantation recipient. This has led to non-invasive tests for transplant rejection. Seeing the similarity between a fetus growing in a pregnant mother to a tumor growing in a patient, he's pioneered the development of circulating DNA-based blood tests that can detect multiple types of cancer, now called multi-cancer early detection, MCED tests. Such tests are a holy grail for oncology. This is not just a metaphor for a university leader. It's the work of a forward-looking, creative, constructive, and problem-solving mind, and a mind attuned to the workings of 3 collegiate universities, 2 in the form of Oxford and Cambridge, and the 3rd one being our very own CUHK. He takes up his post after 28 years of working at CUHK, homegrown, yet nationally and internationally experienced and respected, and garlanded with honors, including election to 5 Academy of Sciences, and prizes including a Lasker Award and a Breakthrough Prize. Welcome, Professor Dennis Lo. We salute you. Te salutamus.
「荀子解蔽篇稱道智者，疏觀萬物而知其情，參溪治亂而通其道，經緯天地而才觀萬物，濟國大理而宇宙理矣。 以為智者善於冷靜觀察，因能洞見自然萬物之奧秘，參照事物發展之規律，知才善任，成就卓越，恩澤四方，福蔭寰宇。盧煜明教授1963年生於香港，土生土長，自幼天資聰慧，成績優異。父親係青山醫院前院長盧懷海醫生。盧煜明教授幼受庭訓，在父親的啟迪下，對自然科學饒富興趣，多所涉獵。及長以優異成績考入劍橋大學醫學院，獲頒授劍橋大學文學士學位。再轉往牛津大學深造，接受臨床醫學培訓，先後獲頒授牛津大學內科醫學士、外科醫學士、哲學博士及醫學博士學位。1994年，牛津大學渴望盧教授留英發展，率先給予講師聘約。然而盧教授始終心繫家國，望能與太太回港貢獻所學，最終在1997年選擇了香港中文大學化學病理學系。從講師到教授，到李嘉誠醫學講座教授及化學病理學講座教授，盧教授將畢生所學回歸香港社會，杏林春暖，世代相傳，克兆機構繼承父業。1989年，盧教授於牛津大學攻讀醫科時，得知婦產科以抽羊水方法檢測胎兒，一根金針刺進孕婦嘅子宮，容或危及胎兒健康，甚且有流產風險。每念及此，盧教授常思，倘能從孕婦血液中獲取胎兒基因，即能免除上述風險。無創產檢之思油然而生，經歷8載寒暑，反覆無數測試，靜心微觀細察，思緒深入毫忘，信念堅定不移，論證鍥而不捨。盧教授在1997年成功發現孕婦血漿內存有高濃度胎兒脫氧核糖核酸 DNA， 並開創無創產前診斷技術，透過抽取孕婦血漿以診斷胎兒患上唐氏綜合症嘅機會，準確度高達 99.7%。2010年，盧教授嘅研究團隊再度突破，首次在孕婦血漿中繪製出胎兒的完整基因圖譜，意味住透過抽取孕婦血液，即能檢測胎兒是否患有單基因疾病。宇宙奧秘豁然破解，杏林佳音舉世稱頌。無創產前診斷技術於2011年正式臨床應用，迄今超過100個國家廣泛使用，全球已有超過1億名孕婦受惠。盧教授被國際公認為無創產前檢測嘅先驅，被譽為無創產前檢測之父。榮譽光重紛至沓來，當中包括於2011年被選為英國皇家學會院士，2013年被選為美國國家科學院外籍院士，2014年獲費薩爾國王國際醫學獎，2016年獲頒有中國諾貝爾獎之稱首屆未來科學大獎生命科學獎，及被譽為諾貝爾獎預測指標嘅湯森路透引文桂冠獎。2021年，他獲頒被譽為科學界奧斯卡嘅科學突破獎。2022年，盧教授獲頒被譽為美國最高榮譽生物醫學科學獎嘅拉斯克獎臨床醫學研究。2023年，他獲選為中國科學院院士。最近佢又再創輝煌，獲美國母嬰健康領域組織出生缺陷基金會 March of Dimes 授予2025年 Richard B. Johnston Jr. 醫學博士獎發育生物學，成為該獎項自1996年設立以嚟首位獲此殊榮嘅華人科學家。傻觀萬物，卓然有成，科研以外熱衷攝影。盧教授憶述孩童時代父親贈予佳能相機，家中更有用於沖曬菲林嘅黑房。他自小醉心影像，自行沖印相片，鏡頭前靜觀萬物，豁然自得。舉凡自然景色、城市百態，皆所取材。從海上拍翼高飛嘅角咀海雀，到法國聖米歇爾山嘅海天一色，從紐西蘭皇后鎮嘅落日餘暉，到美國舊金山嘅華燈初上， 盧教授足跡所至，鏡頭所攝，良辰美景皆作琳琅。萬物靜觀皆自得，一心總攝每相關。他在攝影上嘅造詣同樣超群脫俗，閒時登山取景，高瞻遠矚，既成就了廣闊嘅視野，也練就了博大嘅胸襟。盧教授與中大同年誕生，他並於1997年加入中大，迄今服務中大已達28年之久，對大學依山傍海、俯瞰吐露嘅景緻同樣情有獨鍾。他常言：我當年選擇中大的其中一個原因，正是這個優美的校園。中大地靈人傑，校園如詩如畫。28載休戚與共，教研路上同行並肩。盧教授與中大結緣超過1/4世紀，淵源久遠，情義綿長。科研成就杏林推尊，福蔭世人寰宇稱頌。士林期盼，同心期待。盧煜明教授於2024年9月欣然接受校董會之任命，出任香港中文大學第9任校長。他以寧靜致遠嘅智者心靈、聖明高瞻嘅廣闊視野、顯赫輝煌嘅科研成就，在中大告別甲子、謀展新篇嘅關鍵時刻，決然承擔使命，統領全校師生邁步向前，繼往開來，承傳創新。沙田嶺上鳳凰長舞，吐露港畔紫霞映照，為中文大學振翅騰飛，再創高峰，同聲慶賀。三國志陪從之著引譯傳說，聖人清正行中正，賢人福至民從命，決應其倫來。讓我們共同歡迎香港中文大學第9任校長盧煜明教授。
On behalf of the University Council, I install you, Dennis Lo Yuk-ming, as the 9th Vice-Chancellor and President of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and present you herewith a copy of the Ordinance of the University. I present you herewith the seal of the Vice-Chancellorship.
Professor Dennis Lo Yuk-ming, the Vice-Chancellor and the President, will now deliver an address. 現在恭請盧煜明校長致辭。現在恭請盧煜明校長致辭。
Professor John Chai, Chairman of the University Council, esteemed council members, distinguished guests, members of CUHK, ladies and gentlemen. It's an enormous honor for me to stand in front of all of you to be installed as the 9th Vice-Chancellor and President of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. I've worked at CUHK for 20 years, and I'm very appreciative of the support that I've received from a university for my career development. I'm now ready to take on a new direction and serve the university in a new capacity as its Vice-Chancellor and President. I'm grateful for the trust bestowed on me by the Council of CUHK, the entire university community, and its stakeholders. I look forward to working closely with the staff, students, alumni, and partners of CUHK, and to bringing the university to new heights. CUHK is a comprehensive research university with a unique mission of combining tradition with modernity, serving as a bridge between China and the West, and indeed the rest of the world. We aspire to be the best in our fields, covering both the humanities and sciences. CUHK is a collegiate university with its 9 colleges providing all-rounded education for our students. I'm grateful to the previous 8 vice-chancellors and presidents of CUHK for laying the foundation of the university and for building it into one of Asia's top universities. I'm therefore especially pleased to see a number of CUHK previous vice-chancellor and presidents in the audience today. The nurturing of a child into an adult who contributes positively to the society requires the cooperation of the family, school, and university. I'm grateful to my family for supporting me throughout my education and career. I'm therefore most grateful to see my mother in the audience today. I'm also most happy to see the current principal and 2 past principals of St. Joseph's College, my alma mater. SJC is celebrating its 150th anniversary this year. It's notable that Professor Charles Kao, a previous Vice-Chancellor of CUHK and Nobel laureate in physics, was also an alumnus of SJC. It was at SJC that I first met Mr. Stephen Ho, the biology teacher who first taught me about DNA. Without his teaching, I probably would not have developed my interest in genetics. And I'm also very pleased to see many of my SJC classmates in the audience today. I pursued my university education at the universities of Cambridge and Oxford. Both of these ancient universities are pioneers of the collegiate system. I'm thus a beneficiary of the collegiate system, and I appreciate its contribution to the students' education. It was at Cambridge and Oxford that I first had a taste of what it was like to do research. My first scientific publication was based on work that was done at the laboratory of Dr. Kenneth Fleming in Oxford. I'm just particularly happy to see Dr. Fleming's wife, Jenny, in the audience today. The training in Dr. Fleming's laboratory was important because it's given me the clarity that an academic career was what I wished to pursue. I first developed the idea of pursuing non-invasive prenatal testing when I was a medical student studying obstetrics in Oxford. However, for a period of 8 years, I was actually working in the wrong direction of trying to look for fetal cells that had entered into maternal blood. Such cells are far too few to be used reliably for a clinical test. My wife, Alice, and I decided to return to Hong Kong in 1997. I was just very happy to receive an offer from Professor Magnus Yam of CUHK's Department of Chemical Pathology. It was my joining CUHK that gave me the courage to pursue a new research direction. I just thought about looking for fetal DNA in the non-cellular portion of maternal blood. And this led to the discovery that fetal DNA was enriched over 100,000 times in maternal blood plasma when compared with the cellular portion. In other words, I struck gold. Now, my journey to develop non-invasive prenatal testing coincided with the steady increase in investment in science and technology in Hong Kong. When I first returned to Hong Kong in 1997, a typical research grant in the biomedical area would be around $500,000 Hong Kong dollars. And with the launch of the Innovation and Technology Fund in 1999, I first received my multi-million Hong Kong dollars grant. The severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS epidemic in 2003 showed the authority and the citizens of Hong Kong the importance of biomedical research in public health. We saw a further and steady increase in research resources in Hong Kong. Such resources allowed me to gain access to cutting-edge genomics platform to complete the development of non-invasive prenatal testing. The test was finally launched in 2011 and has now been used over 100 million times. And meanwhile, the support for science and technology has continued to steadily increase in Hong Kong, with supporting infrastructures such as the Hong Kong Science Park and large grants from the Hong Kong Research Grant Council and the Innovation and Technology Commission, reaching tens or even hundreds of millions of Hong Kong dollars per grant. Hence, Hong Kong is reaching a golden age in science and innovation development. CUHK is well positioned to capitalize on the wave of science and technology development in Hong Kong and in mainland China. CUHK has 5 state key laboratories and 6 InnoHK centers. The Faculty of Medicine and the Faculty of Science both have state-of-the-art research spaces coming online over the next 3 years. And CUHK is the first tertiary institution in Hong Kong to appreciate the importance of the Greater Bay Area in our future development. Now, for example, in 2007, we established the CUHK Shenzhen Research Institute. In 2014, we established CUHK Shenzhen under the one brand, two campuses philosophy. CUHK thus has an unparalleled network for contributing towards the development of the Greater Bay Area. One of my first tasks after taking up the Vice-Chancellorship and Presidency of CUHK is to develop the CUHK Strategic Plan 2026 to 2030. Through such planning, we shall further enhance the educational experience of our students. One avenue is the development of the first graduate college at CUHK. We would enhance the internationalization of the university through recruitment of outstanding students and staff from around the world. We shall continue to actively participate in international university alliances. Our 300,000 strong alumni network is a testimony to the fruits of CUHK educational efforts over the past few decades, and we pledge to develop a closer link with our alumni in the years to come. Now, let me say a few words in Chinese. 各位嘉賓，承蒙香港中文大學校董會、全體大學成員同埋持份者對我嘅信任同埋期望，今日我好榮幸接受香港中文大學第9任校長呢個重要嘅任命，令到有機會為呢所我有幸服務咗28年嘅學術殿堂作出更大嘅貢獻。我非常之感謝創校嘅先賢嘅英明領導，為中大樹立良好嘅根基，令到我哋可以喺呢個堅固嘅基礎上穩步發展，屢創佳績。我亦要向全體中大嘅師生、校友同埋嚟自世界各地嘅合作伙伴、捐贈者同埋友好，表達最由衷嘅謝意，而多謝佢哋一直以嚟對中大嘅熱心支持同埋貢獻。中大創校到而家咧係62年，我哋不斷開拓知識疆界，努力尋求突破，為社會帶嚟裨益。 我哋正處在呢個風雲變幻嘅時代，而時刻要對種種複雜同埋難以預測嘅環境嘅衝擊。而大學作為呢個知識嘅樞紐同埋人才搖籃，亦都較以前呢係更加需要對準目標，展現頑強嘅韌力同埋靈活嘅方法去應對風浪。而中大係本着結合傳統與現代，融匯中國與西方呢個創校使命，喺迎向本地同埋全球挑戰嘅同時呢，係矢志不渝嘅秉承珍貴嘅傳統，同心同德，砥礪前行。而作為一所公益同埋為先嘅高等院校，我哋係最緊要係要履行個社會責任，任重道遠，為全球嘅人類咧係創造更好嘅世界。我喺香港係土生土長，而喺海外咧完成高等教育之後咧加入中大。呢度咧就好似我第二個屋企一樣。而中大係不斷去激發我去發揮教研力量，製造變革，拓新求進，而探索生命裏邊咧無限嘅可能性。我鼓勵年輕一代咧要用積極正向嘅態度，而勇敢去追夢，去奮力向前，而堅定去實踐佢哋嘅理想。而今日我就任香港中文大學第9任校長，帶領中大踏上新嘅里程。我已經密鑼緊鼓，係積極同中大去勾畫未來發展嘅路向。我會以校訓博文約禮為根基，立德樹人，努力突破知識嘅疆界，而致力服務大眾，貢獻社會，甚至全世界。我一定會竭盡所能，帶領呢個高瞻遠矚嘅優秀學府，奮力前進，長足發展，再創高峰。我希望大家可以支持我哋，同我一齊咧踏上呢個豐盛嘅旅程，而攜手創造更好嘅未來。So in closing, today marks a significant moment when I officially embark on an exciting journey to provide strategic oversight to CUHK, my home away from home, where I'm continuously inspired by a community of outstanding scholars, innovators, and students. I stand ready to chart a bold path forward for the university, working closely with our stakeholders to craft a visionary roadmap that further strengthens CUHK as a beacon of excellence and a driver of positive change. Guided by the university motto, through learning and temperance to virtue, I shall work with the CUHK community to push forward the frontiers of knowledge and virtuous pursuit. Now, with my guiding principle of IDEA, IDEA, that is inspire, discuss, empower, and achieve, we'll continue to honor our core values, ignite innovation, foster collaboration, and create opportunities for meaningful impact. I'll continue to do my utmost to serve this forward-looking institution in its pursuit of excellence. I sincerely call for your earnest support and active participation in this journey towards a shared and brighter future for all. Together, we'll push innovation and societal advancement to new heights. Thank you.
I declare this installation ceremony closed.
Please rise. 請起立，請起立。